Hello, this is Mike Hefkin from ServiceNow. I'm an IT Business Management Solution Consultant, and I'm here to give you a demonstration of project portfolio management. Essentially have a couple slides and kind of give you the project lifecycle view that we see from ServiceNow, and then we'll actually get into the demonstration itself. So this is a normal project lifecycle. From idea, so we gather ideas that look good. You can essentially convert those to what we call demands, which are potential projects. And this is where you build out that business case, which includes estimating how much it might cost, estimate how many people, how many hours they'll be working. Also want to make sure you're aligning those pieces of work to strategies and goals. And you may have hundreds of different potential demands, and you don't know which ones to work on. And that's where we can help you with portfolio management of stack ranking those particular things you could work on and looking those in the context of how many dollars you have and how many people you have, and make sure they all work together with the right combination. And then once you decide what to work on through portfolio management, we can help you execute on those projects in the form of waterfall projects, agile projects, or a hybrid of both. We also can do scaled agile framework. This will be the flow that we plan to have for our demonstration today. I'm going to start with some high-level dashboards and reports, and then we're going to take you through just what we saw in that previous slide. Ideas to demands. I'm going to throw in a little extra bonus thing, roadmap planning, which came out in our Quebec release recently. And then we'll talk about that portfolio management, and then we'll get into some project management. And I put in here a hybrid project so you can kind of see what it looks like with the both combination waterfall and agile. For this demonstration, we're going to show you two different essentially reports. There's over 70 reports that you get with IT business management out of the box. I only have time to show you a couple, so we're going to show you a couple of my favorites. The PMO Dashboard, Project Management Office Dashboard, as well as the investment portal, more of an ad hoc type reporting capability. So this is the Project Management Office Dashboard, very high-level overview. We're looking at, in my case, 83 projects. Each project will have a cost plan. We're rolling up all those planned costs. Each project will have a benefit plan, and now we're also rolling up the planned benefits. We can, using timesheets, gather actual hours. Through a rate model in the back end of ServiceNow, we can turn those actual hours into actual costs. And that allows us to give us things like variance calculations, such as estimate at completion. We also can do help you capture benefit realization. So there's some example here of actual benefits. Now you can see a lot of different visualizations here. We'll see more, but you can see we have donut charts, bar charts, and we're just summarizing some high-level information like projects by their priority, the total number of planned benefits by different categories, projects by their investment type. The pipeline view essentially takes what we saw in that previous slide and put metrics around it. So I can see how many days my ideas are typically open, what percent of those ideas are getting converted to demands, how many days it takes to build out that business case in those demands, what percent of those demands get converted to projects, and so on through the list. And then down below, we have even more filtering capability, and I can take a look at, okay, I want to look at all my active demands, and you can see these blue trend lines tell me if things are going up, number of demands getting approved is going up or down. Everyone is always concerned about project health, and they typically think about red, yellow, green projects, which of course we can do. You can see we've got here overall red status, and in my example, I don't have any. But I can also take a look at other metrics like how many projects are overdue, how many projects that have missed milestones, projects with negative return on investment, and you can see a host of all these other metrics we're gathering about the projects to give you an idea of how healthy your portfolio of projects are. Of course, dashboards are only as good as the data, so we have the data quality tab to let you know how things are progressing from that perspective. And you can very quickly identify, I've got some demands that don't have a business case, I have projects that don't have a task, I have projects that are not aligned to a portfolio. So we're helping you identify missing pieces of information. You get that filled out, and then the dashboards will be much more accurate for you. As mentioned earlier, ServiceNow can track actual hours. We can turn those actual hours into dollars, and we also have the ability to import data of that nature from a finance system as an example. In this case, we're showing you actual planned cost versus budgeted cost, and of course actuals over time. Same thing for planned versus actual hours. Now the calendar view will surface all of the information you have in your project with respect to dates. And projects always have lots of dates: start dates, finish dates, task dates, milestone dates. Let's filter this by key milestone, and I can see the key milestones, and I can even highlight it based on, and I'm going to pick status in this example, and I can very quickly identify, oh, I've got 3 projects or 3 key milestones that are red, and I could drill down on any one of these to get some more details if needed. The previous report, the PMO Dashboard, was highly filterable and very useful. But quite often people want to do something on their own. They essentially create their own report that they would like to see. And that's what the investment portal view allows me to do, is essentially create my own high-level report, kind of an ad hoc type nature. First off, they create a filter, and each one of these boxes represents a different filter was created and saved. And you can see the different numbers here are summarized. I'm going to pick this application modernization filter. And that's going to dynamically bring in both projects and demands that fit that filter. In this case, things that all belong to that particular portfolio, but it could be any attribute that you have on the projects. Projects from a certain geography, projects aligned to a certain strategy, projects where I'm the project manager. It could be any of those or a combination thereof. And we're summarizing some of the high-level information here. We've got 23 demands, 21 projects. We're rolling up the total planned cost broken out by capital and operating. If you have projects with status, we'll tell you in this case, we don't have any red projects, but we have 2 projects that are yellow. And I also can see some estimated complete calculations as well. Down below are all the details. These are all those 44 investments that we have with the name, the manager name, and so on, some of the key attributes. Now, the nice thing about this view, as I said, it's highly configurable. So right off the bat, each person that comes in here can pick and choose which attributes they'd like to see. If I want to see what business unit this is aligned to, I can just turn that attribute on. I can take that attribute and put it where I want it. I can drag and drop and move it in the column priority the way I like. So it's very powerful that way. You can also group things very easily. So if I want to see how much money is being spent by strategy within this particular view, I can take the strategies, which is here, and just drag it and drop it in the grouping section. And then if I want to see, estimate at complete dollars, I can do that by adding that and storing it by that attribute. And I can see grow the business. These are those 10 projects and or demands that fit that particular category. So you can very quickly, dynamically make the reports that you like directly from this view. You can also look at all of these in a timeline view. So these are all my projects in this particular view on a timeline. I can look at this at different levels of granularity. I'm going to choose year, and you can see all the ones we have. If you have projects with milestones, I can open up that project and I can see the milestone names, hover over the milestone, and get some of the different metrics within that milestone. And the view is some financial data. So these are all the cost plans for these individual projects. And you can look at this in different levels of granularity. I can look at it by month, quarter, or year just by clicking the appropriate button. I also can use that grouping function. So if I want to see this by CapEx, OpEx, I can drag that expense type column up in here. Then we have CapEx, and I'm like, oh, let's take a look at this by another subcategory and double group it. So now I can take a look at CapEx, how it's broken out, same thing for OpEx. And of course, you can create your own categories to look at this. And if you open up any one of these given months, you can see the planned versus actual with a variance calculation here. So this is a great way to take a look at your final financial aspect of these projects. You can also take this information and, if you care to, export this to Excel. So this is a great ad hoc type report. We just showed you a couple of high-level reporting mechanisms that we make available for you from the ServiceNow platform. Let's go to the actual life cycle of a project, starting with an idea. We can use our idea portal to gather concepts and things that you can do as an organization to make things more streamlined. have better products or services, or be more efficient at the work that you're doing. Just gather the information from your employees, and that's what the Idea Portal does for you. So this is the Idea Portal. You can give this to all of your employees, and the employees can come in here and create a brand new idea. You can see the list of ideas we have here. And if you notice, ideas have scores or numbers. Well, that's a crowdsourcing mechanism, so the people who come in here can actually vote these ideas up, and you can take a look at the highest ranking ideas and promote them to potential projects. And that's how we have it sorted right now, is by most voted. And you've noticed we also can identify who's entered the idea, how long it's been here, the state of the idea. We can categorize the idea, and yes, of course, you can create your own categories. And the ideas also have the ability to have collaboration. So if someone takes a look at an idea, other people can collaborate on it. You can also add pictures and movies and videos and links to other websites to help embellish that idea. So it gives you kind of a brainstorming mechanism among your employees as well. The next step in the management life cycle is taking a look at demand. So ideas can be converted to demands, and those demands are where we build out that business case and take a look at the details of what it would be. And the business case can include resource plans, cost plans, benefit plans, and of course, an approval workflow. So let's go take a look at that. The demand workbench in ServiceNow. And what we're looking at in the form of a bubble chart are a handful of demands that have gotten to what we call the qualified state, which means you've gotten a certain amount of information filled out, enough to, in this case, show us what's on the bubble chart. And what we're showing you on the bubble chart is the risk versus the value versus the size of the projects. And you can actually take a look at these and use this as another prioritization mechanism. The low risk, high value projects are the green ones, and those will probably be the ones you want to focus on. And you probably are wondering, where does the risk and the value come from? We have the ability in ServiceNow to send out assessments to people you identify as the stakeholders. And those assessments can ask them questions, of course, about the risk and the value and the size, alignment to strategies and goals, maybe safety or regulation type information you might require. You can decide what those assessments look like and build your own scoring mechanism. In this case, we're going to take a look at one of these. We're going to drill into this demand directly from here. So this is high-level information about this particular demand. You can see it's a strategic demand, and if it were to become approved, it's going to become a project. But we can also route these different pieces of work differently. So if it is strategic, it could become any one of these. It could be an enhancement to an existing application. If we're doing agile type work, it could be an epic or a story. If you're doing scaled agile framework, it could be any one of these scaled agile framework artifacts. Again, you decide how you want that to work for you. If this is more operational type work, keep the lights on activities. Maybe this is going to be a change or a defect. Again, this allows you to use ServiceNow Demand Management as your central repository to route all different kinds of work in ServiceNow. First off, we're going to gather some information about what portfolio does this demand belong in, what program, if any, investment class, which we saw earlier on the PMO Dashboard. Is it run, grow, or change the business? Who submitted this information? Is this for a particular business application? What department is it for? Is it for a particular business unit? Priority information. We have a place to capture a business case, which could be like similar to what you might have today with a project charter document. We can capture high-level financial information, which could be as simple as just three numbers: capital expense, operating expense, and total benefit. In this case, we're going to show you a detailed plan is rolling up to here. And then the assessment data, which was being used to draw that bubble chart earlier. Again, this is rolling up if you use it, the assessment. One of the components to a demand is the resource plan, trying to figure out how many people you're going to need and what kind of people. So I'm going to scroll down here to the resource plans. I'm going to hit Manage. Now what you see here at the very top, we need, for this particular project, I need an architect and I need a program manager. And you can see I've got some hours associated to it for when I need them. I don't need the architect until the very end, but I do need the program manager throughout. And you can see we've got these are calculated out, and the original request was done in FTEs. But you could also flip this, and we're showing the information has been changed to hours in this case. And you can look at this at different levels of granularity by month or by week, depending on what your requirements are. Now, if I take a look at the program manager, I click on that down below, it's showing me all of my program managers, of course, and it shows me their availability for the same time frame. So I can see here that any one of these program managers could take on the responsibility for this particular project, except for Denise. She's already overbooked for this particular time frame. This information now becomes part of the record, and we do this on other demands. We can use this information for resource capacity planning. We'll see this in the portfolio workbench later. Now this is optional. You could have done the high-level plan, and if that's good enough for you, great. However, if you want more detailed plan, you can build it out here. In this example, the first two lines, the architect and the program manager, were filled out automatically for me. ServiceNow did that using a rate model. Based on the hours that were planned over time, times the rate model for a program manager, we came up with these costs, and the same for the architect. If you have non-labor items, such as I have here from a load balancer, you can click New, fill in the form, and it will add that new line item. All these are editable. I can say, well, that load balancer, we're going to have 2 payments, and it's going to be $5,000 for each one of those months. So this becomes part of the cost plan rolling up to the total project. And then we also have a benefit plan. In benefit plans, you can create whatever benefits that you gather. We're looking at this in dollars. We could have productivity gains, we could have additional revenue, and here we're summarizing all the total benefits here, $1.25 million. And the cost plans and the benefit plans together are going to give me some financial metrics such as net present value, return on investment, or a couple examples. As before, if you want to look at the benefit plans by month, quarter, or year, you can choose the appropriate button. And you can also look at your plan versus actual with a variance calculation. So you have an opportunity to gather all the information you need to build out that business case for your particular demand. Cost plans, benefit plans, resource plans. Then you can put it through an approval process, and you can see at the top kind of the process we have of a draft, then it becomes submitted, screening is where you send out the assessments, qualified, and that now means we've got a fair amount of information filled out. And that is what was being represented in the demand workbench, the bubble chart that we saw earlier. You could route that through an approval process, or you could just have simple buttons like we have here, an approval button. And once you approve it, this demand could become a project. Or if you care to do agile type planning, this potentially could become an epic or other artifacts that I had mentioned earlier for agile methodologies. So the next thing I wanted to show you is roadmap planning. So you've got your demands figured out, and they've got date information and other metrics. You can build a roadmap view using those dates and those metrics to help you get a visualization of how many you have, where they fit, how they're aligned to different parts of the organization. Now, all these demands will have dates on them, and we can use those dates to build a roadmap. You can take a look at all the potential work you have planned in a roadmap type view. In this case, I've filtered the list of demands, and you can choose your own filter, of course. Only show me the demands that belong to a particular portfolio or a particular business unit. So you decide your filter, and it's going to bring those demands into this view. And these are the demands that we have. And you can actually take this and add some more things to it to give you better visualization. Maybe I want to color these by the business unit. You can see the colors have changed. We have a legend here to tell you what different business units we're representing. And you can also add swim lanes or group them. Maybe I want to take a look at this by business unit. And you can see my different business units are here. And you can say, well, maybe I want to group it by something else, maybe by priority. So here we are by high, moderate, and low priorities. Now, in this, you can add metrics to here. Again, some of those financial metrics we looked at, planned costs, planned benefits, could be financial metrics like return on investment or net present value, or I could put a score up here, and you can see it added the score from the assessments we've done on here. Again, whatever information you need to help you do your job. Now, this is more than just a pretty view. You can also move these around on the Gantt view. So, okay, what happens if I were to move that time and absence management project? What's going to happen is, you saw it's now telling me, hey, you want to change the dates? I'm going to hit yes. So we just changed the start and finish date to that particular demand. And you can also take them and you say, well, that's not going to really take that long. I don't really want to see this again, so I can hit yes. I don't need to show that. And you can move these around to where you like them and the duration of these. So a very high level, really nice way to look at all the different pieces of work that you might have. And if you say, well, this really isn't really a moderate type priority, I can drag and drop this in, and that also will change the priority information. And maybe this Tableau one is a moderate priority. So you can change these in the swim lanes, and behind the scenes it's going to automatically update those attributes. So it's a great way to visualize a lot of different things at one time. In this part of the demonstration, we're going to show you how we can do portfolio management, which lets you prioritize your demands and projects. You decide what is going to be in or out of the plan, and you're taking into account your cost constraints, resource constraints, and you can build different scenarios based on that information. So you choose a portfolio from the top, and you can see I've got a handful of them here. And then we can take a look at, these are all the projects and or demands that we have in this particular portfolio and some of the metrics that are all going with it. You can set a target, essentially, which is a target spend or a budget, if you want to call it that. In this case, I've got $10 million broken out by CapEx and OpEx. And it's representing that $10 million here. If I try to do everything, which is represented by a green check mark, everything that's checked, that's going to be over my budget. I'm going to be at $13 million, so that's not going to work. So what people will typically do is they'll stack rank this by priority or some mechanism. I'm going to choose priority here and say, well, we can't do everything. So let's start at the bottom and say, well, we're not going to do that one. We're not going to do this one. If you notice, as I'm unchecking these, it's subtracting the cost plan from those individual projects from the totals. And I can play with this to get it the way I like. Here, now I'm at $9.8 million of spend, which looks great. So that's one way to do it. And that's one of the scenarios. You can hit the plus button, create another tab, which essentially is another scenario. And I have another one here called Delight the Customers. Well, maybe here I want to stack rank this by the same mechanism, 1, 2, 3, 4, but I want to make sure we're including all the employee or all the Delight the Customer strategy elements here are also included. So I'm going to uncheck these, but I'm going to keep the Delight the Customer one to make sure we're falling within our budget. So maybe this is a different way to look at doing your particular set of investments. And then maybe you want to do another one based on the bottom line. Stack rank this maybe by return on investment. Highest to lowest return on investment. Once again, start at the bottom saying, well, I don't have enough money. And you get to where you like. $10.2 million. There's 8.9. So you can kind of play with these the way you like. Get it however you want it. And then that's one way to look at this, is strictly by those metrics. And by the way, we do have the timeline information here. We can bring that back and you can see the timeline of these individual investments. Now that's just the cost aspect. We can also look at this from the resource aspect. So looking at the resource plans, like we saw earlier on the demands, we can see if we try to do all these pieces of work that my architects are going to be overbooked. They're over 200% allocated to projects for June. And I can say, what is causing that in this portfolio? I choose that particular cell. It's telling me, well, that next generation procurement project is what's causing that. And I can essentially eliminate that problem by saying, well, what happens if I just don't do that particular project right now? Maybe I can save that for later. It gives you another mechanism to look at it from another constraint, in this case, the resource requirements. So this is portfolio planning, and now I've got some different portfolios. I can compare these scenarios that we've created, one against each other, what the spend will be. I can take a look at how many items we've got selected, what the benefits will be, how many items are not assigned to organizational goals or strategies, how many groups of people are over allocated. And then the one thing that we have here in the bottom, which is pretty cool, if you've unchecked a project that has already been started and has actual costs, you're leaving money on the table. So that's what we're showing you here, is how much money you're leaving on the table from projects that you have already started, but right now don't plan on finishing the way this looks. And you can pick any one of these and say, well, I want to override my current plan with this scenario. I could approve the demands if they're not already approved. I can confirm resource plans directly from this particular view. And that is our scenario planning using the portfolio workbench. So from here, these particular demands that were selected now become projects. And let's go take a look at the project management aspect of ServiceNow. Next, we wanted to show you was project management. In the project management section, I'm going to show you the project manager dashboard, a little bit about our task planning, both waterfall and agile capabilities, and I'm going to show you a status report. This particular view is the project workspace. Each one of these squares represents a different project. The color, of course, represents the red, yellow, green status from the most recent status report. And you can see some high-level information, what planned start date and finish dates, what type of execution. Is it waterfall? Is it hybrid? We also have agile in here, what the percent complete is, what phase are you in. All these projects will have risk registers, change registers, issues, actions, all available to you. We're summarizing some of those pieces of information here. If you've missed a milestone, it'll tell you the last missed milestone date. And of course, you can drill into any one of these particular projects. The view you will see when you click on one of those cards is dependent on the type of project or what execution that you had. In this case, this is a hybrid project, so it's a hybrid dashboard. If this were a waterfall project, it would have a waterfall dashboard, and the same for agile. So you can see we're summarizing some of that same information at the top. What phase are we in? What's the status, percent complete, time elapsed? The different logs that we have, risks, issues, actions, and changes are being mentioned up here, and how many items you have in those logs. Since this is hybrid, we can see how many stories by state we have. I can see the number of tasks by state for the waterfall portion. I can see assignment information. We have resource plans. Are they allocated? Are they maybe committed, which is like software hard booked? Here's your cost plans over time and actuals, your benefit plan over actuals. And then down below, we've got some more details about overdue tasks and milestones. Or maybe you have some tasks where you haven't assigned a real person yet. It might still say program manager or analyst, or it might not have anyone at all assigned to the individual tasks. If you use our time cards, we've got time card information. Maybe you've got a time card, somebody's waiting for approval, or someone hasn't turned in their time card yet. So we have reports for all of those. Now, quite often people come in here where they are all concerned about taking a look at the work breakdown structure or the list of tasks that we have. So this is the task list, and we, of course, set these up into phases and the individual tasks themselves. You can see the dependencies between the different tasks, and this is a graphical view. You have the ability to drag and drop and move these tasks on the timeline. You can drag and drop the inter-task dependencies if you care to do that as well. It's all available to you. You could, if you're using Microsoft Project, we could import from Microsoft Project. And you can use the buttons at the top to create new tasks, move the tasks around in the structure. If you want to work on a task and get some more details, you can right-click on the task and hit Edit. The Gantt bars will go away and the form for that particular task will come up, and you can see all the details to the task if you do that. Since this is a hybrid project, I wanted to show you how we can manage stories within the context of a waterfall project. So this dev execution phase is the agile phase for this particular project, and you can see when I hover over this icon, it tells me this is the agile section. So let's go take a look at this in a little different way. I'm going to go to what we call the project workbench. This is the same information, just a different representation, right? It came up on the initiation phase, so down below, these are my tasks that belong to that phase. typical waterfall sort of thing. You want to see the plant start dates, end dates, actual start and end dates, any constraint information. No surprises there. Let's go take a look at that dev execution phase, which is where I have my stories. So now these are the stories we're looking at. And if I drill into one of the stories, you'll see the form for that particular story come up. What theme is it a part of? What part of an epic? What's the state of that story? How many points is it? Is it belong to a sprint or a product, a release? What group or agile team is it assigned to? Here's your information about the acceptance criteria. Lots of other information is available here on these individual stories. Now, another way to visualize this data is something we call the visual task board. I could flip this view. Instead of looking at in a list view, I can look at it as a visual task board. So now these are the same stories in a task board, and I can see by state. So here's the ones I have in that are draft, and I've got some that are ready. You can take these and drag and drop and move these, and now behind the scenes you're actually updating the state of those individual stories. So now we're managing the Agile component of this particular project directly from here. The last part to the project management I wanted to show you was the status report. So I'll just click on status report at the very top. And ServiceNow has an out-of-the-box status report, and this is what you're looking at. You can see it pulls a lot of this information at the top directly from the ServiceNow system. You don't have to retype this. And here's your executive summary and the last week's achievements, and all this stuff is here. And we do keep history of all these old status reports. I could go backwards in time and go look at any of these old status reports if I cared to do so. We're summarizing as I go further down the planned cost versus actual cost, plan versus actual resource hours. Here's my red, yellow, green status broken out by schedule, cost, resource, and scope with comments that were entered by the project manager. The part that I really like is right here with the history of the red, yellow, green status over time. And then down below are all the details about the individual related lists on this particular project. What are the key milestones pending and completed? The risk log pending and completed risks, issues pending and completed, decisions, actions, and change requests are all listed here as well. And these reports are also available in other places in ServiceNow as well. And that concludes our demonstration of project portfolio management in ServiceNow. We started with ideas. You basically get crowdsourcing mechanism to stack rank those ideas, brainstorming in the form of collaboration on those ideas. Ideas can be converted to demands where you fill out that business case, make sure it's aligned to strategies and goals. Put those demands into a portfolio and put them through a roadmap of when you might want to work on them within the constraints of people and the money that you have available. Then once you decide what to work on, we showed you how to do projects. We showed you a little bit about doing Agile components in the form of stories. And so we talked about waterfall and Agile projects is in the form of a hybrid. So that kind of concludes our demonstration for today. Thanks again for attending. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your account executive from ServiceNow.